Let's go deeper on that subpoena for the former president with Jessica Levinson. She's a CBS News legal contributor. Jessica, late Friday, former President Trump's legal team accused the committee of, quote, flouting norms and appropriate and customary process by publicly releasing a copy of that subpoena. Does that create any legal challenges for the committee going forward?
No, it doesn't. And as we know, a lot of this is historic. It's norm breaking to be in this situation at all. Now, the committee obviously voted in public and had a discussion in public about subpoenaing the president. So there's really not a lot of new information here. To the extent that former President Trump and his attorneys don't like this tactic, that's fine, but I don't see this as a potential legal challenge here. They're saying, we don't like this. You should have done it more privately. You shouldn't have been so noisy about it. But again, this is not a subpoena issued by a grand jury. This is one that's issued by a political body, and they've already discussed it in public.
So, Jessica, can the committee enforce the subpoena under this very tight timeline of November 14th, which is just 3 weeks from now?
I think the answer is probably no. And at the end of the letter that's attached to the subpoena, they say, basically, we look forward to your cooperation. That seems so aspirational to me. I think that they felt it was important to go on record as explaining why they wanted to subpoena the president, why they did, and the information that they needed. We know that there are a lot of different roads that could happen here. The former president could, of course, come in and plead the fifth. I don't think he will. He could just say, I'm not complying at all. He could assert executive privilege. But I think in all scenarios, he's able to run out the clock because the House Select Committee could try and go to court to enforce a subpoena. I think that would take too long. They could make a criminal referral, as you were just having that conversation with Scott about the criminal referral that turned into a criminal case when it comes to Steve Bannon. Again, all of that would take a while. We wouldn't have any sort of resolution except for a criminal referral until after, I think, this committee is basically dissolved.
Can the Trump legal team mount an effective legal challenge to this subpoena?
I think, frankly, the effective challenge will be one of just delay, delay, delay. Okay. So it's not truly a legal challenge here.
Okay. You mentioned that the committee shuts down at the end of December. Do you think through this legal back and forth over the subpoena that we'll learn new things or see some of the documents that they're requesting?
I don't think so, given how the former president has reacted to the House Select Committee, given how people who he has had as senior counselors have dealt with the committee. I don't see him cooperating in any way, which is basically, as far as I can see, the only route that we could see new information before the committee shuts down. Again, it would be really remarkable at this point, I think, if he goes in, if he testifies, if he cooperates in any way, provides any sort of documents. The more likely route here is that he just says no, and the House Select Committee at that point says, okay, then we're going to vote on a criminal referral, not for the underlying events of January 6th, but for, as we saw in the case of Steve Bannon, obstruction of Congress.
Scott touched on this earlier in the show, this issue of the timing and how the subpoena deadlines run parallel to the midterms. In your view, is there a legal requirement that might explain that timing?
So I think it's more the electoral calendar looming and the idea that this committee will no longer exist quite soon. So there's no kind of deadline in terms of these claims will expire or they need to get this information quickly. They need to get the information quickly because the committee will no longer exist soon. But in terms of a legal timeline, they could wait a few days. They could wait, I believe, a few months. In terms of a statute of limitations and whether or not that would run, that's an issue for the Department of Justice as to whether or not they're going to bring an indictment. And I don't believe that we're bumping up against any applicable statute of limitations in that case.
Jessica Levinson, thank you.
Thank you.